I'll suggest that if you put as much energy and focus and intention on how you run the rest of the day relative to the 9 to 5, I think that you'd see your 9 to 5 was filled with so much more productivity, profitability, fulfillment, and joy.
Is it possible that you, being overwhelmed, feeling overworked, maybe running behind chronically, trying to fit 10 pounds into a 5-pound bag, is it possible that you may be focused on the wrong 9 to 5?
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And my question to you, is it possible that you, being overwhelmed, feeling overworked, maybe running behind chronically, trying to fit 10 pounds into a 5-pound bag, is it possible that you may be focused on the wrong 9 to 5? In this episode, we're going to be talking about how a remarkable CEO times their day, how they strategically structure their day around maybe a different 9 to 5. Dr. Stephen, in this episode, you and I are going to talk about there's 4 ultimately divisions of your day, all surrounded the 9 to 5 frame. And today we're going to hopefully liberate many of you, also give you some clarity and direction in regards to how you can, as a remarkable CEO, structure your life to be more productive in all parts of your life. Dr. Stephen, as you know, it's about having a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. It's about having a business that supports your life, not competes with it. It's about time. Today, we're going to talk about one of your 4 limited resources and how to more effectively organize and strategically leverage this incredible gift we've all been given. And we don't know how much more we have, but we want to make sure that what we do have, we make it count. Dr. Stephen, excited to dig in.
Yeah, the great equalizer, right, Dr. Pete, is time. So when we talk about time, energy, focus, and money, time, as you know, as you get, especially as you get older, becomes much more valuable and in higher demand, right? So at the end of the day, society would love to have you focused on the 9 to 5, right? So it's like if you listen to the outside in world, the toxic, deficient, subluxated, and vaccinated world, everybody just struggling against their commitments and their priorities and their calendars, their clocks, their time. And man, it can just be exhausting, especially if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're an entrepreneur who's, in a relationship, especially if you're an entrepreneur who has a family, right? So it's like you start compounding these things up on top of each other. And at the end of the day, what stresses people out almost more than anything, I think, is time, right? So your first response might be money, but if you had more time, you'd make more money. So I was like, at the end of the day, it just comes down to this incredibly limiting reagent of time, yet it is the great equalizer. Okay. It's the one thing we all have the exact same amount of, right? Every day, right? So there's only 2 days of your life when you have anything different than those 24 hours, right? So there's only one day of your life. What is it? 84,600 seconds, right? So it is like everybody has that same amount of time. So we want to make sure that, we're focused on the right 9 to 5. So today we're going to share a construct, a framework that hopefully will be a lens for you to change the way you look at your day. Okay. So it's not that the 9 to 5 becomes less important. Okay. Because let's face it, Monday through Friday, that 9 to 5 is typically the time when we are focused on creating value, on delivering value, on adding value and capturing value, right? So for many of us, that 9 to 5 is a way of saying work, right? So we just call 9 to 5 work. Don't get hung up on the clock that you run on, but just think about it this way. Let's call 9 to 5 work, right? So I'll suggest that if you put as much energy and focus and intention on how you run the rest of the day relative to the 9 to 5, I think that you'd see your 9 to 5 was filled with so much more productivity, profitability, fulfillment, and joy. So, I'm going to suggest a construct, Dr. Pete, that we can have a conversation about. This is going to be a brief podcast. It's going to be a brief episode. For my note takers, this is something you probably want to scribble down. Well, hey, let's come up with an infographic that we'll stick in here so these guys can look at what we're looking at. This is a different clock. It's a different way. I know it's how I run my life and you run your life, is appreciating the fact that, as an entrepreneur, the trade-off on our commitment of our time, energy, focus, and money is we're actually in charge, right? Well, so we're the boss, right? So act like it, right? So I marshal my time, and I'm not really focused on time management, but rather focus mastery, right? So if I look at my day as a 24-hour day, and I want to be as productive and fulfilled and profitable as possible in the old 9 to 5, which would be the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., I'm going to suggest that you should back that up and look at your 5 to 9, right? Looking at that 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. as a time that if you were as intentional about that time, those minutes, those hours, and how you invested and spent your time, what you were focused on, and were as committed to optimizing those 4 hours, it would absolutely change those next 8 hours. And Dr. Pete, if we were to back up beyond that and go from 5 a.m. back to 9 p.m., now we're looking at a different 9 to 5, right? It's the 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., which is the night before, which is so critical because if you're going to have a really strong and consistent, energized and productive 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., you've got to do 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. better the night before, right? So you've got to get that time with your spouse. You've got to get that rest in. You've got to get your sleep in so that when you wake up, you're energized and you're ready to be focused and to start filling your cup from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. with your morning rituals where you can focus on yourself so that you can show up and serve others from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then once 5 p.m. hits, Dr. Pete, there's a gear shift again. And there's a new 5 to 9, right? It's 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., which I'll suggest is family time, right? So we go through these phases of focus. 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. is focusing on your evening rituals, which for most of us involves our families, our kids, our children, everything from their events and sports and dance to karate to you name it. There's maybe some family activities together. Maybe it's dinner time, bath time, bedtime, right? From 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., we're into that evening ritual, right? That nighttime ritual where it's about the spouse. It's about connecting with your spouse and investing in your spouse and spending alone time with your spouse and then getting that sleep and getting that rest together. So again, we can start that next day, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., which is that self morning ritual time to get ourselves ready to serve others again at 9 a.m. Dr. Pete, I'm suggesting that people are focused on the wrong 9 to 5.
I love what we just went through. So like you said, if you're a note taker and took it down, that's amazing. Dr. Stephen, I'm immediately brought to a few things that I want to share. Number one, the quote, it's from a song. It's teach us to count our days and teach us to make our days count. I love that quote. Teach us to count our days and teach us to make our days count. One of the things that I've been doing over the last number of years is counting my days. In other words, knowing how many days that you've actually been alive. And in doing so, for me, actually helps me be more mindful and more grateful and more aware of the fact that time, the clock is ticking. As you said, Dr. Stephen, as we get older, people will say to you, if you have kids and they're growing, they say they grow up fast, enjoy these days, right? Who says that to people? People that are older, who've been there, done that. They tell people that are younger, who are just thinking, I just got to try to make it through the day. And I can't wait till they're older and I can claw back some time or whatever. And they tell you the exact opposite. So I realized, man, I live with this tension of the wisdom of people who have been down the road before tell me wisdom that feels like I don't know how to understand it in the moment because it feels so contrary to how I might feel. And I think the tension that I had, Dr. Stephen, was that I had a different 9 to 5. It was actually 5 to 9. It was 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. balls to the wall. And that's who I was. And I'll tell you what, I could do it. And the issue is the owner operator, GSD, control freak, perfectionist, Clydesdale, just freaking put it on my back. I'm out the door at 5. I'll see you at 9. If there's dinner on the stove, that's great. If not, I'll just make some eggs and that'll be fine, kind of thing. I've been there, done that, and spent a lot of my time doing that. And you recognize that the casualties of not getting this right are significant. So, Dr. Stephen, this really hit close to home because as I think about ourselves, as I think about all of you who are tuning in this very moment, I want to encourage you wherever you find yourself in the clock. The clock is ticking. And as one of my mentors said one time, he said, time is not on your side. And I thought, wow, there's an urgency to that. There's a significance to me getting this right. And I'm saying this to you because we have to take account for the metrics that matter. What are the metrics that matter most? And one of those is, and Dr. Stephen shared about this, is your level of peace, your level of joy, your level of fulfillment, your family connections. I heard it said once that it wasn't about quantity time, it was just about quality time. And I believe that is incorrect. I believe it's an and, not an or. I believe that we should be structuring our lives, our businesses, so that we have both quantity and quality time, doing all the things. From 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., I'm quality and quantity time with my family, serving my family, having dinner together, sharing stories of the day, giving some little teaching and coaching on life things from the things that happen throughout the day, understanding how the brains and the hearts work and really have an understanding of that. When you think about, your family, just that time and how sacred that is, going to sports, being there, a part of that, working on homework, doing math, which you hadn't done in so long, bath time, book time, bedtime. So powerful, serving your family, that sacred time, 5 to 9. And I know that these change in your seasons, Dr. Stephen, you and I were discussing that. Then from 9 to 5, that's spouse time. Not necessarily distracted, scrolling or, I'm done, so I'm checked out or whatever, but can you check in with your significant other? Can you be present and give them not the leftovers, but actually have something left in the tank? Do you have anything to offer at that time? And really making sure you're optimizing yourself and your sleep and your rest and doing the things that you need to do so that when that alarm hits at 5, that you're able to be up and ready and take the time that you need for yourself to get ready for your day. We've done episodes, Dr. Stephen, you and I, on the morning rhythm, the morning rituals, and how important those and sacred those times are for us. And we've shared that, getting your heart right, getting your head right, getting your hands and feet right, so that when you open the door, so to speak, from your closet, wherever you find yourself, hunkered down, getting yourself ready to go face the world, that when you exit, when you go into that space from 9 to 5, it's about serving others, where you can deliver the highest level of value every single time. You're able to deliver and capture, and you're able to lead and support and challenge and recognize and celebrate and do all the things that remarkable CEOs do and be productive during that time. to me, it's really about that and understanding that that's what it means to be. So it's 24 hours a day. It's actually 24 hours a day. You got purpose and productivity 24 hours a day. And if you think about that, it changes the way you're. Well, for me, it was, I'm going to go from 5 to 9 and squeeze it all into that 18-hour, whatever that is. But the reality was I was missing that fact that actually would be much more productive if I could fully leverage all 24 hours with intention. And Dr. Stephen, I hope that this, you and I just discussing this a little bit here now, really in many ways hits as a listener you in a way where you can take this and just decide, like, how am I going to shape my year 2024? What is going to change in 2024 about how you organize your time? Whereas Dr. Stephen said, how you look at your focus, because it's about focus mastery, not just time management. It's really about mastering your focus. So you have to know, what is my purpose? What is my vision? What are my priorities? And having those things in order. That's how you start to get focused, and you can master that. So Dr. Stephen, this is such a rich conversation. There's so much depth to this, but it really is, it strikes a chord every time we discuss this, because it's just so important to get this right.
So I just want to encourage people, wherever you're at right now, this is meant to be a framework, right? It's a reference point, right? So how many times have you heard us say balance is bullshit, right? So balance is a reference point, right? So, and you're not judging yourself against this framework. So don't judge yourself. That's not what this conversation is about. It's about to create a construct for you. It's a framework for you to say, all right, so in this season, we talk about last to now to next to ultimate, just where are you right now in this? And is this, there's going to be times when you're out of whack with this, but just know you're out of whack with it, right? That's what we're asking of you right now. There's an awareness, right? So there's this, I love the master's learning curve. We go from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence to subconscious competence, right? So where are you right now in this? All right. You're like, wow, now that you put it that way, I wasn't even looking at this. I was subconsciously incompetent. I didn't even know I sucked. At least now I know I suck, right? So I have conscious competency around this, which is great. That's where I am right now. Brutal facts, just brutal facts, right? So this is for you. It's not for anybody else. This is just brutal facts. Next iteration, I'm going to rein this in a bit, right? And then ultimately, I know I want to get to this point, right? So if you look at this framework, there's no judgment. Don't beat yourself up about it. And know that there's nothing magical about the numbers that we said there. Okay. So those numbers might change for you. Okay. I was playing off of the old 9 to 5 expression, right? So those numbers will wiggle for you. That's cool. That's great. Get the concept, right? Get the concept. That's what's important, is making sure that you look at your day in these 4 phases, right? So that first phase of the day is 24 hours in the day. What, we laid it out 4 hours, 8 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, right? So 4 hours of self rituals, right? Getting yourself ready to serve. Then 8 hours, 9 to 5. It was all about others, serving others, right? So then it's from 5 to 9, another 4-hour block. And it's about serving your family. And then there's another 8 hours, right? 9 to 5, right? So, which is about recovering, rejuvenation, right? Investing in your spouse, your relationship, and your own personal health as the recharge and recovery, right? So it doesn't have to be that perfect symmetrical time blocking, if you will. So again, give yourself some grace there, right? So this is meant to be a reference point for you. I hope you found this encouraging. We love to hear how these episodes, how this podcast is impacting your life. We love to hear in the comments if you've put this to work. We love to hear the feedback from you, or any part of this, if there's challenges, just give us comments on this. Where is this hard for you? Where do you need help? And we're here to serve, right? So what we want to see is, we want to see you optimized, not just so that you walk in your practice, that you're ready to give, love, and serve, but when you walk into your home, you're ready to give, love, and serve, right? Because ultimately it's about creating the remarkable business that will support your remarkable life, not compete with it.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner, dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy. CEOs, it's Dr. Pete here back in the studio. And today I have a very special guest coming from up north, meeting me here in the Midwest on Zoom. And you're listening to our interview. I have a special guest, an expert in the chiropractic space. He's been in the space for a long time, maybe longer than many of you who are listening. Jerry Hillesheim. He's a sales consultant for Hockert Sales and a remarkable success partner. And remember, when we have success partners, these are specific businesses, individuals, organizations who we partner with, who share our values and share our mission to help more chiropractors, help more people, and do it in a more remarkable way. And that's what Jerry and his team do. So please help me welcome Jerry. It's great to have you. Thanks for joining me here today in the studio for the Remarkable CEO podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Pete. Just a little bit of background. I've been in the profession for almost 35 years now, so I'm kind of a dinosaur, as some would say. But over the past 35 years, I've seen a lot and learned a lot. And my job specifically is to help you, the docs. But a little background about Hockert Sales. Chris Hockert, who owns Hockert Sales, purchased the business from his dad 30 years ago. And we started off as a kind of a supply company with a little bit of nutrition. And probably 10, 12 years into it, we seen a real lack of basically in the space where doctors weren't getting well taken care of on the equipment space. So we kind of introduced that to our platform because we had all the connections in the Midwest as far as existing customers. Bottom line is the equipment world's kind of exploded, and which is a good thing. Lots of benefits, tax credits, things like that. But the bottom line in the space, you, the docs, weren't getting well taken care of, whether it's with a catalog company or whoever. Bottom line, anybody can sell anything, but what happens most importantly is after the sale, and that's what Hockert Sales realized. And we've grown into basically the business side of it, where the equipment is probably 80% of our business. I continue to do and work all over the country with you, the docs. But that's just a little short history about Hockert Sales, small family-owned, veteran-owned company.
Wonderful. And I'm sure that for many of our listeners who, are tuning in, if they've been in the industry for a while, they've probably come across your company. My thoughts are, if you've been around, because from what I know from my short time, working with you, Jerry, and your team, is that you guys are all over. And after 35 years or however long the company's actually been in the industry, I know it's been more than 30 years, clearly. You guys have made a mark. And so thank you for the work that you do. And thank you for your commitment. 35 years serving chiropractors, chiropractic, helping us help more people. That in and of itself is worthy of note, and that is remarkable. So thank you for your commitment. So Jerry, one of the things that we talk about is that a business like Hockert Sales exists to solve problems for chiropractors. And you actually already identified it. You talked about in the industry, you recognized about 10, 12 years in that there was a major issue when it came to equipment. And so you guys tackled that head on. So talk a little bit about the specific problems that your business is solving for chiropractors. So if you think about, a chiropractor who comes to you with a challenge, an issue, what kind of, products are you guys providing? What issues and problems are you solving for the doctors, helping them resolve to help them grow their business, serve their customers, deliver better services, make a bigger impact, make a bigger income? Can you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing right now to help chiropractors?
Yes, we a lot of times initially when I meet a new doctor, it's sometimes solving a problem. And basically my philosophy's been, I'm not trying to make money on every deal or sell somebody something they don't need or want. My goal is to basically keep customers as far as answer their questions, solve the problems. And usually when we get a problem, it's kind of a slight emergency, especially if it's a table issue, which is a lot of times very well used many times a day, obviously. And if that goes down, it's a little bit hectic. So we have a couple of full-time service guys that we can basically send the team to as far as resolving any issues. And as far as the products, whether it's the adjusting tables, I like to educate on the tables anyway. For example, anything that elevates or high-lows, which makes it easier for you, the doctors, especially elevation, if there's a multi-docs in the clinic, where somebody's going to suffer if the table's at the wrong height. And these tables are nice to elevate to get to the proper height, as well as a lot of the docs aren't aware that there's up to a $5,000 tax credit per table. So sometimes it's okay to spend a little money on good quality equipment that's basically going to be a workhorse for your busy clinics and your busy docs. Other than that, as far as a lot of the things we sell for the clinics, whether it's decompression, which I probably sell 70, 80 units a year, I typically offer a service where I can either fly out, pick up the equipment, personally deliver it, and then also do training with your team and staff. And if that's something the doctors don't need, we can certainly ship it directly to you, the doctors. And I do a Zoom call for 2 hours, basically training, because part of my thinking is I'm not here just to sell things. I want to basically have you, the docs, hit the ground running and turn these into huge profit centers. And basically with the proper training and show and educate how to get patients on the equipment definitely helps with the bottom line. So bottom line, it's okay to spend a little money on some nice equipment, especially if you consult with your accountant, which I always recommend. And typically, like I say, I feel like I'm more of a consultant than a sales rep. And bottom line is, if I can answer all your questions and if it makes good business sense, then it's something we can look forward to moving forward on any particular item. So I don't know if I missed anything.
No, it's a great answer. And, two things I would just want to highlight that you stated. One was actually, you stated it earlier. You used the phrase after the sale. And I love that. I think that's a beautiful framework, because even as a chiropractor, it's attraction, it's conversion, and then everybody high fives and we're like, yeah, they committed to care. But it's what happens after the sale. That's actually your business. And I love that, as a business, you've recognized that actually our business happens after the sale. And I love that you value that and you've embraced that. And it's about your customers and supporting them and helping them, consulting with them. That's an incredible differentiation. What differentiates you? We talk about the USP, right? And that's like, that to me would set you apart in my mind. And then even talking about the word training, I wanted to highlight the word training. We in our culture, we believe that, training is your highest ROI. We teach our CEOs, training with your team is always going to give you the highest return on any investment you'll ever make is training. And I love that you have a commitment to training the teams, training the doctors, supporting them in that way. So that's incredible. So that is massive ROI as far as an owner thinking about upgrading their tables or upgrading their equipment or investing in some new equipment. Now, you talked about the tables, you talked about the decompression. What are the things you guys have, like bigger things in the catalog? I know you guys are doing Shockwave. Can you talk a little bit about anything else that you guys have right now that the doctors should know about as far as resources that products they can get from you?
Yeah, obviously tables, like you mentioned, Dr. Pete, and then decompression. And the Shockwave, in my opinion, is something that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. A lot of times you, the docs, can get patients, for example, like me, that are moving and lifting tables all the time so well. We continue to get better. But if we can kind of put that on steroids and offer a service that actually will get results after one treatment and basically show the patient that we're getting those results, those are long-term patients. Those are patients that are going to refer. Just like you, the docs, my biggest thing I'm happy about is the referrals that come in, where if I do my job right, basically I'm going to get a lot of those referrals. And as far as even like decompression, if I do my job right, you start off with one table, most likely after the training, and we go over some options for showing how to get patients on there. But I usually get a lot of repeat business with the same clinic because there's going to be a need for it once we create the demand. And a lot of the busier clinics, when they basically tap out where they can only see so many patients, they can't see any more patients. The only other way I've learned is for those clinics to make more money is to have a great product or service available so you can collect more money from those particular patients. And it's not just collecting the money, it's basically the results for the patients. This Shockwave has been amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Typically, we get 50% pain reduction after one treatment. And in most states it's legal, but most states I recommend selling packages. And basically those packages are prepaid for. And a lot of times when we do these shock waves, I offer free demos. I know it's an expensive product. Ours are a little over 18,000 versus some of the competitors, which are 60 to 80,000. But a lot of the parts are made by the same company, so you're pretty much getting the same thing. So the bottom line is, if we can do these demos that I offer for any of your docs, where basically I don't expect them just to write me out a check and pay for a unit that they're not real familiar with. So I typically offer a free demo. There's no cost or obligation. And whether it's myself or a network that I have, we'll send somebody out to your clinic, and we want to treat your toughest case chronic patients. And we kind of let the product sell itself. And it's kind of one of those things. In most cases, you, the doc, see the value in that. And it's a great tool for new patients as well as your chronic patients.
And, as we look ahead, as you said, this is we're just scratching the surface. Let's, for example, like the shockwave as an example. As you look ahead in the chiropractic industry, which you've been in for over 30 years, which is amazing, and you've seen the evolution of the industry. As you look ahead the next even just 3 to 5 years, what do you see happening as far as chiropractic continuing to stay competitive in the marketplace, to be that go-to, that first, we always say chiropractic first, to be that primary care physician, to be that doctor that the patients, the families are going to see. What do you foresee coming ahead, and how do you help chiropractors be prepared for that?
Yeah, and I don't know if this phrase is going to describe it best, but I look at it like there's going to be the haves and the have-nots as far as the docs. And basically, as insurance gets more and more competitive and possibly eliminated someday, it's going to come down to who has more tools in their toolbox as far as basically helping patients out. I've got many docs. One guy across the street is not very busy. The guy across the street, in groups like yours, they're just exploding. They can't, basically keep up. So it's going to be who can serve the patient the best and provide the most value to patients. And TRP gets that, and that's what you guys promote. And basically, it comes down to having a few tools to basically address any patient that walks in the door that we can help out. Obviously, the adjustment is the most important reason the patient's coming in, but we do have tools that are basically going to allow those patients to have some options. And even like the decompression, for example, my goal when I sell a decompression table is after training to have 4 patients per hour for every hour you're open that week, times whatever you charge, whether it's $50 to $100. And with that training, basically, like I mentioned earlier, we're collecting revenue besides the adjustment, and we're having a package available, and basically collections go up from your existing patients. And I guess other than that, a lot of the things we sell and promote, I consider myself more of a consultant than selling these days, just to kind of cover some of the things we're discussing now. And then also to bring the accountant involved. And we always want to make sure it's a good business decision for each individual. So I don't know if I answered the question properly and where it went, but that's kind of.
You certainly did. And I love that you spoke about making sure you have the tools. And, we teach that in our CEO trainings as well, that it's about, you got to have the tools in the tool belt. I always say the purpose of training and equipping your team. So equipping is giving people the tools in the training, whereas empowering is giving people the authority that comes. So when you train people well, you equip them and empower them. You give them authority, which is accountability, leadership. They can take ownership because they have been given that, autonomy. They've been given that position, clearly defined role where they're in their zone of genius, and you've given them the tools. And tools is where someone feels equipped, and they equipped to do the work. And as we look ahead in this profession, we need to be equipped. So that is awesome that you're equipping docs. So last question, how do our doctors and the listeners here learn more, get in contact with you, take the next step? What do you got for us?
Yes, our website, hockertsales.com, HOCKERT sales.com. The best way and quickest way to get a hold of me is my cell phone. And basically, I keep my phone on all the time. When you, the docs, have time, I have time. 612-816-9402. Or we also have an 800 number during regular business hours, 800-451-5739. We have 2 full-time service technicians. So if you didn't buy products from me, no problem. We're here to help this group, and any problem you have, I want to make my problem and take less stress on each individual CEO, owner. Anything I can do to help, I'm there. And basically, any questions I can ever answer, obviously, I'm there for that as well.
Well, I appreciate you. You know, we teach in our CEO community how important it is to have the right people on your team, getting A players, put them in the right position and doing the right work the right way. And you're someone that every CEO, I believe, should have on their team. So you heard him say it. If you want to learn more, go to hockertsales.com. You can reach out to Jerry directly on his cell, 612-816-9402, or you can reach out to their 800 number, 800-451-5739. We'll add those numbers into the show notes as well. And Jerry, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a remarkable success partner. Excited to continue building and growing with you in the future and helping more doctors help more people. For all of you who are listening, thanks for tuning in. And remember to tune in next week for the next episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Until then, God bless everyone and take care.
Thanks, Dr. Pete.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.